first coaching hire we want to talk about, which was just announced, hours ago. Arthur Smith is the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Derek, Arthur Smith, overall thoughts, feelings on his hire?
I personally have never liked Arthur Smith, not at all. I'm somebody who was a Kyle Pitts fantasy owner at one point. I was a Bijan Robinson fantasy owner last year. I cannot stand him. I think he is a horrible, horrible head coach. And listen, he's known for his offenses, and he simply didn't use his guys. Like Atlanta, you're about to see how good they could have been last year because they have the star power. They have some guys in that offense. And I would go as far as to say the Falcons have better offensive weapons than the Steelers do. I don't think that's too crazy to say. I think it's just we haven't seen it, and they haven't been used or used right. So I absolutely love this hire. I am so incredibly happy that the Steelers went from Matt Cannada to Arthur Smith. And it's funny because normally there's kind of that false sense of excitement when you see a hire like this initially from the fan base. I have seen nothing but negativity from Steelers fans. They are pissed, they are livid, and I love it. I love it so much, especially when you have a guy like George Pickens who, has been upset this past season for the Steelers because he wasn't getting the ball. And dude, let me tell you, the Steelers have weapons. They do. They are a team with some weapons. George Pickens is really great, or really good. I think Deontay Johnson is really good. He's a little bit inconsistent. Freiermuth, really good. They got two good running backs. Their line needs some work, but they have kind of the pieces to work with. They have the big pieces to the puzzle to work with. And now you're taking a guy who didn't use the talent he had in Atlanta, and you're putting him on the Steelers team with guys who could blow up in the locker room, mainly George Pickens. Love him to death, think he's a great player, but the character side of things could become an issue. And you go from Desmond Ridder to Kenny Pickett. I mean, Tristan, is that an upgrade? Is that a lateral? Is that a downgrade? I don't know.
I would say it's those laterals that go perfectly even, except sometimes they maybe go forward a yard.
Mm-hmm.
That's what type of quarterback move this is. It's we gotta measure it, do the lines of the ball, see, that's how close the quarterback plays. Oh jeez.
Tristan, I just don't understand. I don't understand how last year the organization, they don't fire coaches, and they fired Matt Cannada, and the whole fan base bitching about play calling, and it just goes from bad to bad, or maybe even bad to worse. I genuinely think there is a world, or there is a possibility that Matt Cannada might be better than Arthur Smith. And I know that's crazy to say, but bro, I'm telling you right now, watch the Atlanta Falcons next year. And I know they'll probably have a new quarterback, and they'll probably have some changes, which, yes, so it's not apples to apples. But I'm telling you, Kyle Pitts is not a bad player. Bijan's not a bad player. Drake London, as much as I was not a fan of him pre-draft and all that, he is a solid player. He can be really good. They have talent in Atlanta, and it's comical. I'm literally, the first thing I thought when I saw that, the notification, Tristan, I was like, there's no way. I was like, there's just no way we are this lucky that they went from horrible offensive coordinator to horrible offensive coordinator. So, obviously, we'll have to see. But, Tristan, initially, for me, just my general thoughts, I love it. I'm so happy. I am so happy. I hate the Steelers more than anything, and I think they just prolonged their issues offensively. So, what do you think about this?
Yeah, so bear in mind, if what I'm about to say is incorrect, I saw this notification right before I like clocked in for work. So, and I just got home from work. But if memory serves me correct, Arthur Smith was the OC for those Titans teams that were really good, that got the most out of Ryan Tannehill and won the AFC, which is just mind-boggling to me how they
Mm-hmm.
did that. But um, so let me just first and foremost say this: I don't believe that this hire is a pure incompetent hire. I think Arthur Smith, while he will be criticized for what he did in Atlanta, and rightfully so, he wasn't good enough. Um, I think that we have to remember what he was like when he was last an OC, when he just was responsible for calling the plays. Um, you know, I wonder if he will be able to get that same success back. I kind of go back and forth with like, you know, what are the odds of that actually happening? And, if I'm a Steelers fan, you know, absolutely I would be upset because you see the direction the NFL's moving in. It's the Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, uh, Matt LaFleur type offenses where it's heavily West Coast with a little bit of just magical stardust,
Mm-hmm.
but makes it different. And, um, you know, even with a coach like, Todd Monken, I didn't think that he was capable of coaching like that. And he went into Baltimore this year and had a great year despite that last game, which we will get into.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, what I will say is this: could Arthur Smith be a good OC for the Steelers? Yeah, I think he
Mm-hmm.
could. I think it's very, very possible. A lot of times, some coaches are just not made to be a head coach. Some coaches, they call plays, they control one side of the ball, and they are elite at it. They are elite at it. Um, I excuse me, I very well think that it's possible that that could be the case for Arthur Smith. Um, However, I will say to have the weapons that he had in Atlanta, to stick beside Ritter,
Mm-hmm.
um, ultimately I think that was his downfall. Um, when we look at quarterbacks that could have been available last offseason, um, I think the biggest regret that the Atlanta Falcons have, or at least should have, is not aggressively pursuing Lamar Jackson. They absolutely should have gone after him because if they would have won their division and they would have actually been a serious threat
Mm-hmm.
in the NFC. I really believe that because with the way that Dallas looked against Green Bay, with the way a lot of these teams looked stacked up against these other teams, like even the 49ers during this run to the Super Bowl have not
Yeah.
looked great. They just haven't really like I don't even know like they've gotten the best luck of
Mm-hmm.
the games that they've played. Um, for me, I look at it and I say, obviously there's questions on the defensive side of the ball there, but that team with Lamar Jackson, that could have been a team that really competed this year, like
Mm-hmm.
really competed, potentially was in the NFC Championship game, because we saw what the Lions did with Jared Goff, in that offense that they've got, and they don't have any corners. Like their cornerback room is
Cooked.
garbage.
Yeah.
In their safeties, I mean, there's C.J. Gardner Johnson, but one man can only do so much,
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I really think that there was an opportunity last year, and it was the decision to stick with Ritter that ultimately killed him. We'll see what they do this offseason. Um, I think that they're probably going to end up with Justin Fields. Um, Either way, they should make a deal with Chicago in my eyes. Either
Mm-hmm.
it's Fields or you're trading for the first overall pick. I think one of those two has to be the case for Atlanta. Again, that's just me
Oh,
though.
Okay, Atlanta. I thought you were talking about the Steelers because
No.
because I saw a report that Tomlin said that we believe our future or our quarterback of the future is on the roster, and yet again another situation where I saw that and I laughed and I said,
Oh,
"Cool, good, awesome."
it, and again, I know this. We're supposed to be talking about Arthur Smith, but
Yeah.
when we're talking about Arthur Smith, it's about the tools that he has around him to succeed. Um, you know, Arthur Smith was very successful with Ryan Tannehill, a veteran quarterback who's been in the league a lot, hadn't necessarily had the success, but knew what style of offense he wanted to run, knew how to run it effectively. And of course, he had Derrick Henry too, which also helps, and a good O-line.
Yeah, no kidding.
And AJ Brown. So
And a really good defense.
Yeah,
Tennessee had really good
Vrabel's
defenses.
defense is a very good defense. So, when I look at the Steelers, I say, right, they're going to have a good defense. They always do, no matter what. George Pickens, he's a guy. He's talented. How talented, how good, we'll see. He's certainly had his moments where he's looked like the next big thing, and he's also had his moments where it's like, man, I don't know if you're worth the trouble. So we'll see from him. Freiermuth, I think, is a very, very reliable tight end, makes plays when the ball's thrown his way. Then you've got a backfield of Jalen Warren and Najee Harris, who both backs at their best are very, very good, very talented. I think Jalen Warren has the higher ceiling. But, I mean, Najee Harris is not a scrub. Like, a lot of people say that he's a scrub, he's bad, whatever. He's not. He has a specific running style. And I almost wonder if the Steelers looked at Arthur Smith and his years in Tennessee and what he got out of Derrick Henry, and they say, we need you to do the same here with Najee Harris, because they see him as similar backs. And I guess I could hear that, from a build stature like point. Time will tell. We'll see. But I will say, I think that if I were a Steelers fan, I would have much rather preferred a more Shanahan style guy. I will say that. I would have probably went with the QB's coach in Houston. I can't remember his name right now. Last name I think is Johnson. Is it Ben Johnson?
I don't
think
know.
his name is.
I don't
can't
remember. But he's staying. He's staying in Houston.
Yeah, he is. He is. So, honestly, Houston got so lucky to keep Slowick and Johnson. Man, that's insane. But regardless, I think Arthur Smith. I don't necessarily think it's. I will say this: it has the potential to be the worst hire of the offseason, but don't be shocked if a year from now we look at it and we say Pittsburgh won 11 games and a lot of it came down to their offense improved. However, I don't know as though I would put all of the offense next season on the OC when, you know what you're going to get for quarterback play. It's going to be subpar. It's, going to be very bottom of the league standard. I really don't get. I'll tell you why. It's because of Rooney. He's not going to move off of Kenny Pickett. They've spent a first-round draft pick on him, and you think that he's not going to be starting? Come on now. After 2 years? Come on. Yeah, no, he's starting. But I think it's a big mistake for them. I will say that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, as much as I hate the Steelers, if I look at this from an objective standpoint without my Browns fan glasses on, I would say absolutely go get a new quarterback. Whether if that be drafting one, which I think there's plenty, whether if that be trading for Justin Fields. I think there's options there, and they're going to punt on their options for mid. That's just what it is. Strictly because they made the mistake of drafting Kenny Pickett with the first round pick, and they're going to stick by it, and it's going to cost them. Whether if it costs them long term, who knows? But yeah, we'll see. And a big part of next year for the Steelers, I think, to your point on Arthur Smith and Tennessee, I do believe a lot of that was because that defense was as nasty as they are. So we'll see what that Steelers defense can do next year. TJ coming off of an injury. So we'll see. It's going to be a lot of different moving pieces, and also the offensive line's not going to be as good. So there's a lot of changes for Arthur Smith going from Tennessee to Atlanta, and then now from Atlanta to Pittsburgh. I don't know. I just think it's a disaster. I think that whole situation, again, look in the mirror, realize what you have, and change it. And I don't think they will, because they're too prideful. They're too stuck up in how they want to do things. And yes, it's worked for them in some cases, but I think this is a situation where they're going to fall on their face. And they have nobody to blame but themselves. So, but that's all I have to say on the matter, Tristan.